Hi, Annie. How are you?
I'm doing well, Monica. How are you
I'm
doing?
very well, thank you. Have you had a good day so far?
Absolutely great.
Good to see you on InstaLive, and thanks for accepting our invitation.
It's an honor to be here, and thanks for talking about issues that are so important to women.
Absolutely, that's what EkWomen is about. It's a platform where we want to bring out these stories to inspire other women, so that they also, if they have similar kind of issues in their life, they know what they can do and how to then follow their passion and achieve success. So before we begin, let me introduce you for all our viewers. Annie Koshy is a media consultant, entrepreneur, photographer, actress, and model. You can see that, She's also much sought after as an MC and keynote speaker, as well as for her PR skills. Annie, you encourage individuals to be true to their personal story and have now created a recognized brand that has brought you many awards. Kudos for that. You develop brand strategies, conduct workshops, offer coaching and mentorship for individuals and companies. Your recently released biopic, which we are going to talk about, Fear, Face Everything and Rise, reveals how you escaped the claws of tradition and became a modern, independent woman. We are so honored to have you here with us, Annie. Welcome.
Thank you, Monica. It's an honor to be here. And so many more voices need to be heard, and so many more women need to have their stories shared. And so through my work, I hope to open doors.
Inshallah, as they say. Tell me, how did your upbringing shape the person you've become?
Well, I grew up to first generation immigrants. I'm a first generation immigrant myself, and I think that they came with the dream to better their lives, to better the lives of their family. They were a young couple, initially moved to the States and then eventually made their way to Canada. We come from a very Orthodox South Asian family, and I think that that really helped me as I grew older and well into my adulthood to realize just how to balance diverse perspectives, be able to take cultural differences, and be able to sort of understand that not everyone is going to have the same amount of exposure or background or knowledge, and to be open-minded about accepting differences of opinions.
And so you feel that this diverse cultural upbringing is what's made you what kind of person today?
I definitely feel that. I think I was very blessed to be able to grow up here in Canada, and I think the exposure to the variety of cultures, languages, customs, religions was quite extensive. And in fact, growing up, I really didn't notice, personally speaking, a vast difference between myself and others, just that I didn't realize at that time, our knowledge base at that time about racial differences, all of that was not what it was or is today. We didn't have those terms to really understand what it was that we were going through. I was one of a handful of visible minorities in the high school that I went to, and my high school was very small. And so it was not that I didn't have experiences growing up that were challenging. Of course they were there, but we didn't have the labels that we have for today to say that this is what it was. I just thought it was because I was small. I didn't think of it as being because I was brown.
Right.
That was not
right.
what it was. I didn't, if someone teases you because you eat chicken noodle soup every day and they call you noodles, it's not because you're South Asian at that point. It's just because someone wants to be a bully and call you that, right? And so I just viewed it in those terms.
Right. And so it's interesting because it's different today, right? And the innocence of that period is kind of lost. So now, do you think it's gone above and beyond? Like now, any situation is turned into a challenging, racist, biased situation?
Oh, I have so much to say on this topic. even the term that they use today to identify people who are of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC, is a term that's used in film and television. And it almost feels like a reverse way to identify people who are already marginalized. We don't need to be identified as that. We are already there. And the argument, for argument's sake, is that, oh, we want to make sure that it's more of a level playing field. Well, the way that needs to happen is to ensure that people who are making those decisions at the top are representative of the communities that we're from and of various gender, you know, whichever way we need to level that playing field, that should happen from the top. We're at the bottom here, you know, applying for a role or something. I think there's this forced sense of wanting to create a diverse commercial, for example, and you pair, you know, people who are visibly different and then choose a child that may be a mixture of the three and or of the two, and you create this sort of family dynamic. That's also not right. Right? So where are we in all of this? Can we go back? No, because it's like going back to the syrup and Jemima and scrubbing the part of history because we don't like her photo on the syrup bottle. It's not about the syrup bottle. You go back and erase history from today to say that didn't happen and therefore, or we didn't like that happening there, therefore we're going to just forget it. We're going to erase it. We're going to take it away and we're not going to deal with it. History is history. We learn from that. And as we can see from history, history repeats itself in cycles because as humans, we don't learn from those lessons.
You know, I think Shelley Sandberg has said that in future, we don't need female leaders, we need only leaders. Similarly, in future, we don't need this differentiation of BIPOCs. We need to have a level playing field for everybody where they all have the same kind of amenities that, you know, schooling and everything. And there's everyone has a seat at the table so that we don't have that. It is a completely different topic and one can go on and on about that.
Speak about because, you know, you're welcoming, when we're talking about women, you're welcoming women leaders. And I say, and I've always said, it's not about male leaders or female leaders. It's about leader, period. Let them lead and give them the power to lead, enable them to lead and lead with servant leadership as the beacon that guides you, right? I think when you remove those aspects from how you put people into positions, how you bring people on board into your company, into a production, whatever, it should be based on ability. It should be based on, is this person, male, female, whatever gender they choose to be, if they are the right match or the right fit for whatever role it is, not based on anything else. And I'm a firm believer of that.
Totally, me too. I'm in your head with this one too. Moving on, you've spoken about the need to sacrifice a lot to achieve something bigger. How did you get the courage to do that in your life?
Oh, I didn't realize that was what it was called. That was courage. You know, when you get to rock bottom and you have no option but to go up, that's when you realize that you need to have whatever you call that in you, the gumption to pick up your pants, your socks, your skirt, whatever it is, and get on with it. And you know, life gives all of us lemons, right? We're all going to be dealt with challenges. We have to choose whether we're going to let that challenge hold us back or whether we're going to use that challenge as a stepping stone, as a handhold, as a foothold to rise above that. And, you know, sometimes we feel that you don't have it in you. And it's in that moment. And if you take that few seconds, a few minutes, maybe a half an hour, maybe a day, maybe a couple of days to find that inner strength, you will be able to get over that challenge. It's 1 foot, 1 step, 1 sentence, 1 moment at a time to be able to overcome those moments.
So no vipassana meditation or a mentor or a tribe that kind of held you through those moments.
Oh, all of that's very, very important. I think the first thing that I had to do in my own healing journey is to learn to love myself. Typically, as a South Asian woman, you know, I was raised and, you know, I came from a family that got married very young. And if you did anything for yourself, you were considered to be selfish. You were considered that, oh, you're thinking just about yourself. But it brings to mind what happens when we sit in an airplane. And when we sit in an airplane, we're encouraged to, and we're asked to put the mask on everyone else, our children, our partners, everyone else, including our partner, which I consider also sometimes, you know, we maybe so there at that moment with someone who can't manage, but
Right.
a humorous side, put it on yourself before you put it on for them. And if you can't pour into yourself, if you're not coming from a place of balance, if you're not loving yourself, how on earth can you pour into someone else? How can you accept or be able to receive love from someone else if you can't love yourself?
You know, there's also the other thing about a mother taking care of her own health so that she can raise a healthy family. So it's always about putting yourself first if you want to be in the best space to be able to do what's good for you. And
I was not good that way at all, Monika. I have to say that I kept doing what everyone else wanted, and I was not functioning at my optimal best. I was not the best mom. I was not probably the best wife. I was probably not the best daughter. In the moment, I thought I was doing everything that everyone else wanted. But I realized today that I was a very unhappy person. And in my unhappiness, it stemmed from the fact that I was trying to make everyone else happy. And it was much, much later when you find yourself in moments where you're by yourself for extended periods of time. And I found myself alone during our COVID lockdown, and in Canada we had a very, very tight lockdown. I found myself for 18 months not having human contact. It was only through Zoom, and there was no human touch, no hugs, I didn't have anyone over. I had no safe bubble. It was one of the most difficult moments in my life, I would say, and if it had not ended, I fear that I would not be who I am today again. The reason is that that period of time gave so much space for me to really delve into the broken bits of me. Really look at who am I as a person and go down to those foundational blocks, because we don't. We put everything else and everyone else in front of us, and we forget us. And when we find us, we're into our middle ages. We're into our 40s, into our 50s, into our 60s. And as women, one fine day, we don't have the kids around. Our spouses are used to us not being around because we're pouring into the family. Our parents may not need us any longer. And we're left with so much time on our hands and no goal or aspirations, because those we've relegated to the back burner and they fizzled out.
Gosh, you said so much. So it makes me think what you thought was the right way from your cultural background to sacrifice whatever mattered to you and do for others, this whole duty stuff. My question to you is that, does your cultural background impact the work you do now after you discovered yourself? Or is it no longer a part of who Annie Koshy is?
I no longer consider myself just one thing. I'm a mismatch of everything. I call myself a bohemian, creative, free-spirited soul. And the reason I say that is I'm a bit of this and I'm a bit of that. Am I fully Canadian? No. Am I fully South Asian? No. Do I want to wear just one thing? No. Do I want to eat just one thing? No. Do I just want to do one job per day? No. So what does that make me. It makes me a person who's willing to just step out of the comfort zone, which I was so unwilling to do before. I was so uncomfortable when there was change happening, and now I embrace change. I don't even know. I would plan out every single moment, every breathing step of my day was structured. Every half hour, every 15 minutes. Not to say that I don't have structure today, but if that structure gets tossed out of the window because something else comes up, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You talked about coping mechanisms. You talk about wearing many hats, which we, even from the introduction, we know you do a host of different things. Tell me, how did you foray into so many different careers, and what's the through line between your activities? Which one of these excites you the most?
Okay, so the one that I love the most, and there is a through line through all of this.
Okay.
I say that the through line is creativity and communication. And as you can see, I'm a very good communicator. I think I came out of my mom's tummy communicating. Must have been something there, because I did. I think I was recognized for my voice from a very, very young age. And so communication has been key. But the one thing that I'm absolutely passionate about is photography. And I think that the one aspect about photography, anything in front and behind the lens, I would say, is what gets me going. And this is because it's all about storytelling. And I'm fascinated with stories. I'm fascinated with what makes people tick, what is about their lives, what are their milestones. We all think that we need to achieve something big before we can tell it to someone else, before we can be on radio or on TV. No, every little milestone that you as a human being have, that's an important moment. And there is going to be someone who's going to be able to look upon what you consider to be small, and it will be huge for them. And that was something that really struck me. So capturing people's emotions, feelings, being able to tell a story through photographs is something that I really, really enjoy. But yes, creativity, communication, whether it be teaching, whether it be branding, whether it be working with companies on building their brand strategy, this is all in sort of one line.
And so how is photography a career? Is it for your personal self, where eventually you want to have an exhibition to show your photographs, or do people hire you out as a photographer? What kind of photography do you do?
So I do behind the scenes photography on sets. I also do portraiture. I do what's called artography, and artography really is a coined term, and it's really about looking through the camera and creating art through a photograph. And so it's not your traditional, I do not like the corporate type photos where you have the green screen behind, or you have a screen behind. You see those typical photographs. A lot of the real estate agents and anyone who needs a passport photo will get those, very interesting. I guess we need to have that type of photography, but that's not what gets me going. I like candid photography. I like people in action. I'll talk to my subjects. They will speak to me while I'm clicking. They won't even know that it's happening. I'll capture artists behind stage. The things that go on set, not what's being filmed, but the people who are filming, who are the other people going, what are they doing when they're watching what's going on, the expressions on their face. That is what captures for me a story of the moment. And that's what I truly, truly enjoy.
Talking about a story and filming and capturing moments, we have to talk about fear, face everything and rise, how that came about. And I saw it. And I see how the behind the scenes has been captured by some other photographer, not by you, but I see exactly what you must be doing in some innovative ways of, looking behind the scenes and capturing everything, which was part of the story. It tells the story in itself. So talk to us about fear. Is that what you call it, or do you say the whole name?
So fear, Face Everything and Rise is my film, and it was released in September of 2020. The film went on to win 37 awards in 13 countries, awards and nominations in 13 countries. beyond that. The film Fear is not about my life. The film Fear, it could be representative for anyone's life, male or female. It's really about being able to step out of one's comfort zone into that black abyss of unknown, right? What's out there? What's out there if we choose to just open our minds and explore beyond what we confine ourselves in that box, right? And for myself, I was unable to keep this bubbling creative person confined in this box because someone relegated that that's the only space that I had to grow in. I grew out of that box. And so when you grow out of that box, what do? Fear was a hard moment for me. When I left my marriage after 27 years, and this is really the first time I'm speaking on air in a public forum about this, it was a huge change for me. It was a very difficult moment. I didn't leave because I didn't care or love my family. I did. That was not the reason. Had I stayed, I wouldn't be here today, because the person that I had come to or become at that point was no longer recognizable to me. As a little girl, I had dreams of, I loved art, I loved music. Those things really made me happy. But coming from an academic family, that was not something that was viewed as a career. It's not to blame my parents. It was the way they were raised. And we come from this family where going to university, getting a higher education was something of value to them. Today, we ask our children, what would you like to do? You know, we didn't have those questions asked of us at that time. You had a typical, set of careers that you could choose from, and they were the typical sort of academic focused careers that we were used to. I always say today, had I had the opportunity, and I did one course in university, and I went to Ryerson, today known as Toronto Metropolitan University, and when I went to Ryerson, my fourth year course was in children's broadcasting, and I aced it. I did such a good job. And I worked with one of the producers at the time who was doing Sesame Street. And he was one of the best professors that I have ever had because it was a topic that I really enjoyed. But there was no one who looked like me in television or radio for that matter. And so that wasn't even a career option. And we have all heard of the horror stories of the casting couch and all of the situations that women found themselves in that seedy world of entertainment. It was not to be considered at all. I was never under I was never far from the watchful gaze of my parents, and so that was not an option. But I think, had I been able to go and pursue what I wanted to do, and I didn't realize it at that time, today I perhaps would have been someone at a different level. So whatever I've accomplished in the last 4 years after I walked away from it, I took those dreams that I had and I stored it. And the moment that fear stepped in and it was to face everything is that I took those dreams and I ran with it. Fear, Face Everything, and Rise, the film, is a belief that I had that I wanted to see my story, my face, in a story that's going to impact lives around the world. And that today is a success of Fear. It's not about my story. My story is a drop in the ocean of stories.
So tell me, I think you recently released it in Toronto. You had like a red carpet for Fear, right? After the public saw Fear, what kind of positive feedback have you? I mean, you must have had some negative brickbats also. If you can share with us, how you feel like you impacted somebody who made and it made a positive change, and what kind of negative feedback have you got too?
There has been no negative feedback. And so if there is someone who has had some negative feedback, I have yet to hear about it. The positive feedback, I'm going to quote my late friend Rajesh, who just passed away a few weeks back.
Sorry.
There for the premiere, He's a fellow filmmaker, and you can actually see his response to fear as one of the first reviews on the Vimeo link. Rajesh stood up as soon as he finished seeing it, and there was a question answer. There were 200 people in the audience, and Rajesh stood up and he says, "Annie Koshy, in 1 hour and 15 minutes, you had me go through 200 emotions. I've been moved by this film." And for me, what he said brought tears to my eyes, because this is a man who fought bullying himself. He fought. As a male, you don't hear a lot about it. People thought that the film Fear was a female film, that only women would resonate. You won't believe it, that nearly every single person who spoke at my premiere were men.
Wow.
It was the males that found it eye-opening. It was the males that walked out and said that they had tears in their eyes.
Tell me, what do you think is the key change necessary for South Asian males to develop more balanced relationships with their women in their life? These men who you say stood up and, empathized, were obviously in touch with their feminine side, but do you have anything to say about this?
Oh yeah, it's not about the men. It's about the women. We need to educate the families. Remember, a lot of South Asian families are raised by women, right? The children are raised by women. So it's the women perpetuating this myth. So we need to talk about this not at just one level, on a multi-generational level. The conversations have to happen on multiple levels. The funniest thing is that audience of 200 people were not South Asians. We had everyone, the cross-section really of Canada. There were people Middle Eastern background, Caribbean background, South American background. There were Pakistanis, there was Guyanese, there was South Asians, there were Germans. There was a cross-section, I would say, young and old. I had teenagers there, and there were elderly people there as well. It was a good segment. For me, the premiere that took place in person was a real different feeling. When your film goes out to festivals, it goes out to a bunch of people that you have no idea. They all watch it, and it may get screened at their festivals. Remember, I released my film in the prime of COVID. And so I didn't have the opportunity to walk the red carpets and to go to the premieres where my film won. And so I didn't have that experience. And so the premiere was this first moment. I was blown away. That day I held it together, Monika.
I can imagine.
The next day and the next 2 days, I was in pieces. Entire set of emotions, because I had 200 people, for all of a sudden their eyes were opened about topics that I've lived with.
Yeah, it's powerful, completely. I can imagine being in that audience and the impact it must have made. So you're telling me that the women need to learn how to raise their men. What is your key message to young South Asian women today?
Go and do what your heart desires. Don't wait for someone to open that door for you. Get up off of your butt and open that door yourself. You do not need it to have anyone to validate you, to enable you. You enable yourself. If you do not enable yourself, then don't sit back later on and say, I didn't have the chance. Like myself, it took me a long time. Now, I don't wait for someone to enable me. If I need to get something done, I do it myself. And it's not to say that you shouldn't rely on other people. Of course, rely on them. Reach out to your support network. Have those friends around. But you don't need to have, whether it be male or female, you don't need to have someone else to finish you or to fill you or to complete you. You are a complete entity on your own. You are whole.
And these are the young girls who go out to become mothers. So as a mother, how do they raise empathetic humans? Do you have something for them?
Oh, wow. Well, if I could go back and do that again, I would probably want to have a repeat and try my luck at that again. I was I was a very young mom. And I was a young mom in a country that I didn't know anything about. I had moved back to India with my children after I had them both here. And I raised them in a community where I didn't speak the language and I didn't have a network around me. And so that was a struggle on its own. I think that one of the things that we have to remember is that we're expecting women to wear all of these different hats, to be the career woman, to be the housewife, to be the mom, the cook, to be the, you know, transporter from one class to the other class.
To be the daughter-in-law.
To be the daughter-in-law. Something's got to give. And so we have to remember, men and women, that if you have a woman that's a good career woman, she may not be a good cook. If you have a good cook, she may not be the best person to jump into the car and transport the kids all around the city. He's busy in the kitchen doing that. If you have a woman or a man who's able to focus on one area and they do it really well, the other person should really try to flow in to fill in those other spots. So you work in tandem with each other, not expect that because you're a one gender or another, you have this role and you have to stick to that. I think it's about communication. And therefore, my biggest takeaway from all the lessons that I have had in life is find someone that you can talk to, find someone that you can respect and who respects you.
Wow, that's awesome. I was going to say, what is your favorite quote? That almost became like a quote, but do you have a favorite quote?
Well, I think that it has to be with that judge that passed away a couple of years back. She was based there.
Ruth
Bader, right? And she mentioned the fact that we should be having women at all the tables. They shouldn't be invited. They should be there.
Yeah.
In expectation.
That's amazing. Tell me, Annie, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I don't think that far in advance any longer, Monica, because my 2 days sometimes doesn't happen the way that I envision. I am so at peace with my everyday right now. I am so grateful to be able to wake up every day and have a healthy life, have a healthy body, have a healthy outlook on life, have wonderful friends that are around me. In 5 years, I hope to see that this journey I've started continues, that I'm able to continue to coach and impact, and that there are more young women who I know are watching, because one I know popped on, call me.
Do you want to say hello to her?
Rachel. Who call me Mama Ninja, you know, whether it's Shay Sand, whether it's Rachel, you know, there are several women who follow or reach out to me and speak with me. And I think that it's just to be, as a woman, a middle-aged woman who's older, experienced, is to be a safe place, a haven for young women who, when they need a coach or need someone to talk to, and you are able to do that in a safe place, be a person for them. They need them.
That's just so amazing. Annie, before I let you go, if anybody has any question, please feel free to type something in the comments. But also, can you let us know where can people see your video, your movie, and do you have a website in case you have other work that they can see?
Absolutely. Monica, if your followers want to follow me on Instagram, in my bio, there are several links. The links will have my link tree, which has all of my details there, but also there is a link to watch Fear, and people can click on that. It is a Vimeo on demand link, and so feel free to rent the video and then watch it with whoever it is that you wish to watch it with. I think that this is a film. It doesn't matter whether you're male, female, young or old, watch it. If you're planning on getting married, watch it. If you're already married and have young children, watch it. If you are elderly and finding yourselves at crossroads, watch it. You're all going to find something that's going to be a takeaway for you from that.
And I have to say, I watched it. Keep a box of Kleenex beside you also while watching it. Annie, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who joined us on this Insta Live. And we have another one next week, 23rd of August, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where we're going to speak to Kanika Chadha Gupta, who is the host of the podcast, That's Total Mom Sense. MOMSENSE. So Mom Sense, it's about raising kids and raising empathetic kids, as we were talking, and all sorts of things related to that. She used to be a CNN anchor for in India. So yes, she should also be a very interesting person to talk to. Meanwhile, thank you, Annie. I guess there are no questions for you because you are so articulate. And as you said, you're a great communicator. And it certainly came across during this Insta Live session.
Thank you, Monika.
All the best to making sure that we have a voice at that table and to mentoring more amazing humans going ahead in the future.
Thank you, Monika. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking with you one-on-one later.
Bye.